tech, it's just basically electricity right now. It's everywhere. It's with everything that we do. So if you have any story that's related to tech, we'll always and only judge the story by its own merit. It doesn't matter that you've never published with us before. It doesn't matter you never published anywhere before. We're looking at HackerNoon content as having 3 niches. So we have the blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency people. We have the general tech startup people, and then we have software development. Software is where we started, so it's always dear to our heart.
Hello, this is Derek Bernard, producer of the HackerNoon podcast. Today we join HackerNoon COO Linh Dao Smooke, who sat down with Chris Castiglione of the Learn How to Code podcast from the folks at 1 Month. You can check it out at learn.onemonth.com/hacker-noon. In this episode, Chris and Ling discuss the HackerNoon story as of June 2019, the company's trajectory in the tech publication space, and HackerNoon from a community perspective. Who is it who makes HackerNoon? Stick around and find out. This episode of HackerNoon is sponsored by DigitalOcean. Join a community of over 3.5 million developers learning how to build and scale high-performance web apps on the simplest cloud platform. With a flat pay-as-you-go pricing structure and monthly caps across all global data centers, DigitalOcean makes it easy to get the computer resources you need without the billing surprises you get from other cloud providers. Discover why developers love DigitalOcean and get started with a free $50 credit at dio.co/HackerNoon. Full stack developer Austin Pocus.
We're using it to host a discourse site. So basically they give us a machine and we run a Dockerized instance of discourse on there. Gets a few clicks and discourse is ready to rock.
Hey Ling, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
Hey Chris, thanks for having me here. I'm doing good.
Great. Can you tell us, what is HackerNoon?
Sure. So HackerNoon is an independent tech media site. We don't like to think of ourselves as someone else's publication. So we actually moving off Medium pretty soon. We can elaborate more on that. We are a contributor-driven network with over 7,000 contributing writers and counting. We have a very small and lean team with me and my husband to start in the beginning, and now we up to four full-time employees and about 10 different contractors all over the world. We publishing mostly tech stories, but we do believe that tech infiltrates all aspects of life. So we also have stories about startups and building your own businesses, as well as really deep dive technical stuff on JavaScript and software development programming, as well as blockchain content. And we publish about
Do you have a sense of how many articles you have on? HackerNoon?
We actually do know. It is about 20,000 articles that we have published already. And so we started in 2016, January of 2016. And so far every day we've been publishing about 20 to 30 stories, probably a bit fewer in the beginning. But we've been growing pretty steadily. And about 20,000 stories in our library right now.
Oh my God, that's so many stories. And you and you don't write those stories. I mean, maybe you wrote a few of them, but it's just contributors, like people who submit stories, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, I wrote 0.001% of those stories, but no, most of these stories by our amazing contributors who are the heart and soul of our platform for sure.
Wow. There's a lot of different tech, news sites out there. What makes HackerNoon so special?
I think we don't pretend to be the Jesus of publishing. We just kind of trying our best to be the reflection of the internet, if that makes sense.
Can you explain what the Jesus of publishing is?
So, there are a lot of platforms out there whose their main purpose is really to have every single person on the planet use their platform, which, it would be cool if we ever have that, but I don't think that's that has ever been our focus. We really are interested in what people have to say about technology, and we have a strong editorial team. At the same time, we don't police what people have to say about certain topics around here. So people feel like the freedom to express themselves and the barrier to entry to some are a little bit lower than some of the other tech sites. Like you have to go through lengthy review, lengthy editorial process, and a lot of the times, not for that much better distribution. For us, we accept anyone and everyone. Of course, we have 3 editors now who look into the quality. Before that, it was just me and my husband. But and they have to meet certain standard, with grammar and with kind of just best practices of hyperlinks and stuff like that. But in terms of the actual content, we very, very lax on that. As long as you have an interesting story to say, like if you do everything lowercase, we don't care. If you put a lot of, like just memes and gifs and stuff like that, we don't care. You don't have to do AP style anything. You have to attribute other people, but that's pretty much it. We don't standardize that kind of things. So I think because of that, people feel that sense of freedom of expression and just freedom to tell their stories.
Yeah, there's really like this democratization, of content from the author's perspective. I think like you feel like, oh, I can have a voice in this community. I think that's the way HackerNoon feels, to me as someone who has submitted work myself. It feels like, oh, okay, I guess with the Jesus, which is whatever you said with the tech Jesus, I like that term, tech Jesus. With the tech Jesus is, it's a lot harder even just to get something in TechCrunch. It's very like, to use the word like centralized and hierarchical to kind of like get the voice in that as the comparison.
Oh yeah, or something like Forbes Technology, where it's also a contributor-driven model like us, but it can take up to weeks or months to get your piece up, which, I mean, with the kind of the quantity of submissions we have, that timeline just doesn't work. We need to be able to move fast.
How did you get involved with HackerNoon?
So my story of getting involved in HackerNoon goes all the way back to, I guess, 2015, when I totally by chance met David, actually. So I was at the time traveling to San Francisco for business. I was leading the Asia division of this innovative brand new university called Minerva. I was leading kind of like the marketing, sales, customer relations, like everything you can think of building a brand new identity for a university in Asia. And, my office was on the 9th floor of Market Street, and there was like a concert going on that day. And I was just attracted, to the music. So I went down, and that's when I randomly met David. I guess he was pretty, he found it very entertaining that I was plugging in my phone to my computer to charge it. And while being at a concert, it's like talking about how technology infiltrates everyday life. And he would just, his line was like, you have a lot of technology on your hand, or something like that. And that's how we met. So we, because of the way we met, we didn't really have any thing kind of professionally. We were just like building relationships. But whenever we got married, and I left my job at Minerva, I was witnessing the growth of HackerNoon the entire time up until that point. I remember when Jay and David started, Hacker Daily. That's when it was first started. It was called Hacker Daily in January, and then they changed the name to Hacker Noon in April, and everyone thought that it was such a bad idea that it was called Hacker Noon, not knowing that like that would actually be one of our proudest assets. You know, the name Hacker Noon is really catchy and seems to be resonating with people. Then around, so, you know, I was witnessing the growth of HackerNoon for the entire year, just kind of on the sideline, seeing how hard David was trying to recruit all these stories, personally communicating with all of the writers. Like, I mean, I think he remembers the first 500 or even 1,000 stories he published. So every single story was just, it meant a lot to him. And so I was kind of seeing all of that.
This episode of Hacker Noon is sponsored by DigitalOcean. Join a community of over 3.5 million developers learning how to build and scale high-performance web apps on the simplest cloud platform. With a flat pay-as-you-go pricing structure and monthly caps across all global data centers, DigitalOcean makes it easy to get the computer resources you need without the billing surprises you get from other cloud providers. Discover why developers love DigitalOcean and get started with a free $50 credit at do.co/HackerNoon. Full stack developer Austin Pocus.
We're using it to host a discourse site. So basically they give us a machine and we run a Dockerized instance of discourse on there. Gets a few clicks and discourse is ready to rock.
And then
so let me just make sure I have this right. So because there's a lot there. I mean, so quick summary is you heard some music outside, you met David. Fast forward to you fell in love, and meanwhile he was starting Hacker Noon. He changed the name from Hacker Daily to Hacker Noon. And then at this point, I think it's also interesting to mention that, I mean, when you say you started Hacker Noon, I'm picturing, you know, on Medium, I believe anyone can start a publication. You just start a publication.
Oh, yeah.
But it sounds like what David had done was he had attracted writers who had something important to say, because it's not easy to get attention for that.
Yeah, I was going to tap into that. What I noticed was that out of all the publications we started also together one publication on feminism called Athena Talks, actually around the time. And so there was 16, 17 publications that were all around, you know, like the first quarter of 2016. And each of them has a varying degree of success in terms of growth and how attractive they are to writers and readers. HackerNoon just by far was like just crazily, insanely attractive to people. And I think it's, you know, it says something about maybe a market or the lack thereof of a platform for, you know, these incredibly smart people, software engineers, developers, blockchain enthusiasts, Bitcoiners, students of computer science to just like say something, you know, from their own perspective, from their first person perspective.
I love that.
So yeah, I mean, it was really interesting to see how HackerNoon is like 10, 20, 30 times the growth of like all the other publications combined. So that was interesting. And I got to see all of that as it was happening. I think they got to like 1,000 either writers or stories. I need to get my story straight in like the first 10 days. It was like something like that. It was really, really crazy. And
how did they build? I mean, how did David, at the time it was just David, you're saying, and one other person, right?
Yeah, it was David, who's kind of like this publishing expert, you know, person. And then there was Jay, who's an engineer at Capital One. So they were friends from before, and they just kind of worked together to build this brand. And I think they did do some kind of script to kind of automatically recruit writers in the beginning, but that quickly got shut down, like very, very quickly, like within like a you know, single digit of days that they started it. and it actually triggered like a change of terms and conditions in Medium's very own terms and conditions. So if you see something along the line of like you can't run a script in our app, it probably was triggered by that event.
Okay, yeah.
Back in 2016.
Oh my gosh, yeah. For anyone who's listening who might have an idea for something that they want to start a publication on, do you have any advice for how to start a publication on Medium?
I think you should just find your vertical, whatever that works. You can't just publish everything. So I think like the most important thing first is like find your niche, find your vertical, and then next it's just basically go for it. I mean, I remember I was actually helping out a little bit with recruiting stories in the beginning too. You just have to like go at it, you know.
When you say recruiting stories, does it mean like you're actively searching on Medium and you're asking people, hey, do you want to be part of our publication?
Yeah, exactly. So we would look at this interesting story, and then we immediately message the writer. Back in the day, they actually have a add this story to your publication, something like that, like, or like ask to add this story to your publication. They cut that functionality months ago. I think maybe even more than a year ago already. But yeah, they used to have that. I think just kind of be vigilant and go for the best stories you can find. And I think people like that about us. We're very transparent about our intention, and we just share with people that, hey, like we started this publication, and we do that like with 16, 17 other publications too. Like as for me, I'm very interested in fitness, and I'm very interested in feminism, so I kind of went out of my way, like spent hours just kind of talk to people about the stories that they wrote and how interesting they are.
Are you saying you started 17 publications?
No, I started 2 out of the 17, but yeah, they not nearly as popular as HackerNoon. I mean, Athena Talks is still going on, Fit Yourself Club is still going on, but all the other ones kind of dwindled a little bit because we since shifted our focus entirely on HackerNoon.
Because what I'm wondering is just like, it's interesting your strategy, if we call it that, for having an idea to make something, like a publication. Yeah. It sounds like maybe the idea was, hey, let's try a bunch of these. Yeah. And if one hits, we'll go with that. Is that more of the story of how it happens?
That was it. But also, I think with HackerNoon, we also spent a lot more time kind of just thinking about the bigger questions of like technology and how that just impacts every single thing that we do. Like even, the very software that we use to recruit stories is a part of the story of technology, big picture technology. And then now as we shifting gear, I mean, I'm skipping the story way ahead, but now as we're shifting gears from a publishing company to a software company, I mean, that was just, it blew my mind how that happened.
Yeah, so let's talk about
all incidental.
I would love to hear more about that.
Intentional at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, let's dive into that. I'd love to hear more about that. I've been following over the past. I don't know. It seems like almost a year now. You can tell me, but since this kind of, I want to call it like a breakup with Medium has been in the works. Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on with HackerNoon and Medium?
Sure, of course. So we've been building our following and our stories on Medium infrastructure for the past almost 3 years. And, around the beginning of 2018, they kind of communicated with us that, after many pivots, they finally decided that publications are no longer like an integral part of Medium business. And I mean, it was really detrimental for a lot of other big publications, and I really thought that that was why people like Signals and Noise left the
Hey,
platform.
and Ling, when you said they decided that, did they decide it by emailing you, or was it
Yeah,
your traffic
yeah.
just dropped, or what was that?
No, traffic was still growing constantly. I mean, January 2018 was actually our biggest month ever because of this one story by David Gilbertson, who I I think he exclusively publishes on HackerNoon. It's like this very fascinating story about a data breach. But yeah, January was around when they started communicating at first just like via email with us about their intention, and then many long calls after that about their pivot. I mean, this is not surprising to us because they've pivoted many times. I mean, they um, kind of let go of a third of their staff earlier, before that, and then they also hire just like new editorial team before like firing them again. So we just kind of knew that they were experimenting a lot with their business directions. But the particular news of publications no longer be an integral part was pretty detrimental to us, and we tried to get into like the partner program that they were trying to promote. So they want everyone to pay them $5 a month, and we kind of like, yeah, like if you want us to be part of that, like we'll be happy to, like we can help with distribution. But that didn't go anywhere. So yeah, long story short, just right around mid May, June of 2018, we knew that we had to move off. They actually offered us a very small amount to move
To buy
off.
you? Did they offer to
Yeah,
buy you? Did they?
yeah, they did. They did. It was laughable,
Interesting.
really,
Okay.
the amount that they offered, but they did offer some, and we rejected it, and just kind of like we're thinking, of our own pivot. Like now we actually have to do something. At the time, we already have almost 7,000 writers and about 18,000 stories in our library, and like the thought of just doing it all over again was really overwhelming. But
But what
you
options
know,
did you have at this point? I mean, you're saying they
so
didn't want you, so
yeah, we have three options at the time, at least in our mind. We either just shut it down altogether, like they wanted, and take their offer. That's number one. Number two, we can be, working for someone else, like some other bigger companies can acquire us, and like take over this problem. It will become their problem. Or the third choice, which is the hardest one, and I was kind of in denial for like the first month or two that we had to choose that. But to build our own software, build our own infrastructure, and just start everything over again. And after many many late night sleeps and many talks and pondering, we decided to go for that route.
wow. So it wasn't an easy decision, but that's where you are now. Is this decision? What you're telling me
Yeah.
to leave to do your own thing?
It's been actually amazing, Chris. It's like
Ooh, yeah.
whenever we decided, we make that mental switch, everything changed. We decided, we approached one of our contributors who happens to be the CEO of this equity crowdfunding platform called Start Engine. We didn't know much about crowdfunding at the time, but apparently it was only available since 2015, the Jobs Act of 2015, allowing basically every ordinary person, American or international, with the exception of a few countries, to invest in like a private company. Before that, it was never possible. Only accredited investors can do so. So we kind of, and Howard, his name, was really helpful in just explaining to us that a crowdfunding platform is the best option for you right now because of all of the readers and followers that you already have. And we just kind of took a leap of faith, at the time, and be like, all right, if people want this, company, this publication to continue, maybe they'll chip in. Our goal is to reach for the sky, the maximum, which is $1.07 million. And we didn't know how much we're going to be able to raise. After a few months, we raised the max amount. Were actually oversubscribed towards the end, meaning a lot more people chip in more money, but because of regulation, crowdfunding, we can't get more than 1.07, from 1,200 readers. So whenever people say funded by readers, we are really truly funded by readers. And and these are not a donation or anything like that, kind of a Kickstarter or crowdfunder. It is equity. So
what's the difference?
The main difference is that we don't just give away T-shirts, which we do, or stickers, in return for your investment in us. You actually own a little bit of the company. The 1,200 investors own about 15% of HackerNoon right now, which is our valuation is $7.5 million after the crowdfunding. So yeah.
How did you, if you didn't use Kickstarter, was there like a platform for doing this kind of equity crowdfunding? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. So we don't know. I don't think we will ever, we were ever even considering like just kind of a donation campaign, because we think it just doesn't bode well with what we've done. I mean, we have helped people a lot with distributing their stories, but at the end of the day, it's their stories, it's the contributors' stories, and they own those stories. So to us, everyone who invested in us should own a little bit of the company as well. So that's why we go for equity crowdfunding and not just like the regular crowdfunding. So now we actually report to 1,200 bosses. Like before that, we were actually an S corp, which the requirement is fewer than 75 investors, and like we quickly passed that after like the first 4 hours of the first day of raising the fund. So because of that, now we have we have a lot of people to be accountable to, and it's amazing. We promised these people that we will do a quarterly kind of in-depth report of the state of the company, just every quarter. And last time when I did it, we sent an email to 1,200 people, and like 1,000 people like immediately opened the email. Wow. I mean, I sent a lot of emails before, but having an 81% open rate on the first day is just kind of, I never heard of that. So these people are they're really, really true believers, and
what percentage of the company?
So grateful.
Oh my gosh, yes, I love the story. What percentage of the company do they do they own? Yeah, is that the right
15%. Yeah,
15%.
Altogether, these 1,200 investors own 15% of the company.
And how do you manage that? Is it, I know like CoinList or there's like some crypto ways to split equity. Is this have anything to do with like a blockchain kind of token, or is it actual?
No, we would love to explore some of that, but right now they actually manage on Start Engine, the crowdfunding platform, and we do have their emails and all their contacts information, so we can either send it via Start Engine or send via our own CRM. But manage is a funny word, because we really consider these people like our bosses. So what we do is we invite them all to our private community on community.hackernoon.com, which is a discourse instance that we built with the help of DigitalOcean. And it's like, it serves as our community forum. And these people are all invited to our private group on there. We also just, make sure that they are the first to know, let's say if we have a beta product that we want them to test, or if we have a special sponsorship opportunity or any kind of job opportunities, things like that, they would be the first to know.
All right, so this is amazing. So you made this really hard decision to move away from this giant corporation Medium at this point, and now you have the backing of about 1,200 people who have like actually funded this idea.
Yeah.
How do you then get all of the content off of Medium and onto your own platform? It seems like that's a really big challenge.
Yeah, so good question. So we've been backing up all the content since pretty much the beginning. So we have all of our content backed up by a third party. And
what third party, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we just they're called Cosmic.js, and they are actually also a contributor of ours. We just work with basically all companies that contributed to HackerNoon.
The thing going on here is that all the smartest people in tech because of your site.
I know. Yeah, that's such a great. I'm so grateful for that. Like, just an awesome unintended consequences.
That's
but yeah,
so
like
cool.
These people like have a vested interest in HackerNoon. Basically, they want HackerNoon to be successful. So that's why they're just so eager to work with us. But we've been relying on Cosmic.js for years now, and they help us back up the content in their system. And so right now, when we're migrating the stories over, it's going to come from Cosmic.js. Now, in terms of what stories will move over, that's a very it's going to take me a long time to explain it. But we've been, for the past 4 months after we concluded the crowdfunding campaign, making sure that everyone is informed of this move of Medium. All about 8,000 writers are informed of the move, and they give us exclusive permission to publish their content, or to really make sure that their content remain on HackerNoon.com and no links around the internet, of which there are like millions, are broken.
I bet, yeah. So that's going to be a pretty wild day when all those links break, so to speak.
Oh my goodness, yes.
The internet is going to break. What do you know when when the move is going to happen? Is there a date set?
Hopefully, I don't want to say anything too that I can't keep, but hopefully around when this podcast airs, hopefully.
Okay.
I don't know, because I think it's pretty safe to say, because it usually takes a while for a podcast to air.
Yeah. So wait. So I have some of my writing on HackerNoon. Are my links gonna break? I gave permission, so I'm curious. Like, if people gave permission.
No, your links absolutely will not break. If you give us permissions, then 100% it will not break.
Okay, great. And
we have the stories in our system.
That's good for anybody else listening who's either a fan or a writer to know that if you gave permission, then the links won't break. Great. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Ling, that's really all I needed to know today. So we're done here. No, that's awesome. It's good to know. Exciting.
Yeah, I don't think there's any precedent for this before. I mean, there are some publications, some companies that have moved, but Medium usually is pretty nice to those companies and have worked, hand in hand with those companies, those publications, making sure that. So our case of kind of this breakup is, I think, a rare case. so we'll see. We're still trying to work with them. We've been emailing them back and forth, and I think the last communication we had with them was kind of when they did that whole email thing to all of our contributors, saying that we basically didn't exist. So that was pretty abrupt. And but yeah, after that, they did try to reach out again. So
Medium.
We'll see how that goes.
Medium basically went direct to your writers, and they said something like what?
Yeah.
They were like
HackerNoon is just a container, and within the Medium infrastructure, and basically you shouldn't go there, something along those lines.
Wow.
It was a pretty surprising Monday. And
oh man, Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about the future. And if people listening right now might want to contribute, what is the process, or what kind of stories are you looking for to get more of on HackerNoon?
Sure. So we're looking at HackerNoon content as having kind of three niches. So we have, the blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency people. Um, then we have the general tech startup people, and then we have software development, which, software is always like where we started. So it's always kind of like dear to our heart. But we kind of get to see the rise of blockchain as we publish stories, and we just educated ourselves a lot on the topic. And a lot of these companies, they can't advertise or tell their stories anywhere else, because talking about big companies, they have a lot of control over like exposure of blockchain. So we kind of have an interesting intersection for that. We allow people to talk about their own stories and future blockchain. Then outside of that, we also have a lot of startup founders and just technical, non-technical founders in general, and people who are building things, just talking about how they build them. Um, so yeah, those are the three topics that we know that there will always be audience for them. But even outside of that, I think, like I say in the beginning, tech, it's just basically like electricity right now. It's everywhere. It's with everything that we do. So if you have any story that's remotely related to tech, and we will always and only judge the story by its own merit. It doesn't matter that you've never published with us before. It doesn't matter you never published anywhere before. In fact, the majority of our writers is unprofessional writers. They write stories as part of something else. They don't write stories just for the sake of writing. So yeah, like it doesn't matter, like you can just publish, or at least submit your stories to HackerNoon. Right now we have contribute.hackernoon.com, and it will directly go to the inbox of one of our three main editors. We also have me, myself, and a few other people in addition to those main editors. But yeah, like the three topics that I talked to you about, each of those is manned by one editor. And they will provide you with a minimum of like 10 minutes per story, with like improving the headlines, making sure that search engine will recognize it, improving the structure of the story, making sure it's readable, easy enough for the readers to follow, any guidelines around links, around best practices. Then yeah, you can just simply go to contribute.hackernoon.com for that. And if you would like to kind of get a sneak peek into HackerNoon 2.0, you can go to community.hackernoon.com, where we, like I say, it's our forum. We have a couple of thousand readers, writers, shareholders on there already. And we do kind of product updates, and just kind of polls of like what features people want us to include in our software on there. And we also discuss things like what will replace Google search, what's your spirit animal, or like what computer do you use. That kind of thing is really fun. Then you can go on there, and if you want to reserve your handle on HackerNoon 2.0, you can go to off.hackernoon.com. And right now, I think you might be able to reserve Chris, maybe. Like there are like 3,000 handles reserved already. So yeah,
I'm gonna do this right now before
yeah,
this goes live.
where
do I go? Say it again.
Off auth.hackernoon.com.
Oh,
and that's where you can reserve your hand. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Final question. Do you have a favorite author or story on HackerNoon? And maybe something also, if people listening, that they should check out first, something like that.
I think it's got to be Rick and Morty and the Meaning of Life. Dan Jeffries. I mean, how amazing is that? He just blew my mind so he exclusively publishes on HackerNoon as well. And I think he basically, Dan Jeffries, he like is set for life with his job. Like he like sells software for some rich companies and like on his daytime and like every other hour of his life is spent thinking about big questions, like, the future of humanity. So, yeah, I just love reading his stuff a lot. And then who else? Dan Gilbertson is also, I mentioned him a bit earlier. He's the person that wrote our biggest story ever on the data breach and security breach.
Do you know the name of the piece or how to spell his name?
Yeah, 1 second. Dan Gilbertson.
Yeah, maybe it's the one I have credit card numbers and passwords from your site.
Oh, yeah. Yes, that's the one.
What a crazy name. Here's how.
There's also this one from Cassie, who's the Google chief data scientist, I believe. And she publishes a lot on HackerNoon as well, and she does one on TensorFlow. Long live TensorFlow. TensorFlow is dead. That one is interesting as well.
Great. Well, hey, Ling, it's been super great talking with you today. Is there anywhere where we should send people? I mean, obviously, HackerNoon to find out more about HackerNoon. Is there anywhere that I should send them to find out more about you?
So I'm Vietnamese, actually, so I don't use Twitter a lot. Like, I didn't know it was a thing until, like, I went to the U.S. I studied in the U.S. back in 2009, so 4 years in college there. But you can, like, see all of my things on Facebook, I guess. Unlike a lot of other work people, I'm still using Facebook.
Oh, okay.
And that's like a way for me to connect with my family back home as well. It's Facebook is still really big in Southeast Asia. And we have this chat, Dao Talk, which is like among our family, that has been going on for years. Like literally Facebook has been like the reason for me being able to keep up with my family for like a decade. So like I have a different point of view on their place in the world.
Interesting.
Obviously they are very ambitious and they're doing a lot of questionable things, but I think people tend to just use them as the scapegoat for a lot of their anger at technology as a whole.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But yeah, you can find me, like you can just search me on Linh Dao Smooke, and then you should be able to see me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, HackerNoon. You can find me hackernoon.com/@HackerNoon.
Great. Yeah, I'll put all these links in the show notes so that people could find more.
Yeah, sure. That's
great. All right, Lynn, thanks so much for chatting today.
Thank you.
That was Linh Dao Smooke, COO of Hacker Noon, appearing on the Learn to Code podcast by 1 Month. You can find them at learn.onemonth.com/learn to code podcast with dashes in between learn to code podcast. A simple Google search of Linh Dao Smooke will find you Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, the whole range. More specifically, you can find her at hackernoon.com/@hackernoon. Please don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on social media. You can find the Hacker Noon podcast at podcast.hackernoon.com and keep up with what's going on in the community at community.hackernoon.com. Until the next time, I'm Derek Bernard. Thanks for tuning in.